Beyond. Welcome, friends, to Podcast Beyond, episode 163. My name is Ryan Clements. I am an editor at IGN.com, and I'm joined by the handsome, the talented, the dashing, the charming, completely indomitable Colin Moriarty.
Jeez, thank you.
How are you, sir?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. I've been excited about this podcast. This is our, let me see, it's the official name is Podcast Beyond, the Fireside Chats II.
Right.
Number 2. Roman numeral 2.
Yeah.
And what we do on this podcast, normally we would have the one and only Greg Miller leading us on a journey that could possibly be described as madness. But on today's episode, just like an episode Colin and I did long ago, it will just be you and I chatting in a nice, quiet podcast room. The office, it's actually very suitable because it's the day before Thanksgiving. The office is very quiet. There's not a lot of people around.
Right.
Just the devoted are here.
Yes.
So we're here to have a nice, relaxing conversation about games, life, and everything in between.
Astronomy.
And, astronomy. I mean, we could potentially just spend the next hour talking about astronomy. But thank you for taking the time to do this, as always. And thank you for joining us, listeners. Let's start off with, I think I could call it a fan favorite. It's called the Roper Report. Time for some news that's so relaxing. Ooh. Colin, you have the Roper Report today, do you not?
I do.
All right.
It's not too busy of a week. It's actually only been a 6-day week for us because we record Beyond on Thursdays usually. Today is Wednesday. Greg isn't here. He's eating turkeys in Illinois.
He's probably not eating turkey yet, though, unless he preemptively ordered a turkey sandwich.
I don't see why you wouldn't. To be honest with you, turkey's great. But yeah, there's like 5 stories we should probably touch on real quick. We're going to be quick because the Fireside Chat is all about
the chat.
Is all about the chatting and not the news. So we're going to do this quick.
Yeah.
The one thing I wanted to talk about, obviously, is Gran Turismo 5, The Mystical Unicorn, is out. It's here. We have it. The review is up.
And I mean, are you okay with the fact that you swore to us that it would be delayed again, but it did not?
No, I mean, it's fine. I'm happy that everyone, I assumed with the myriad delays that, it would just be delayed again and again. Not like quite like vaporware. We would eventually get it, but,
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm happy it's out. We gave it an 8.5. Our friend Martin over in the UK reviewed it, and it looks very pretty. Did you see it?
Yes, I have seen it running on Geddes' desk. It's very nice, and it's interesting, though, that Martin, he didn't give it as high of a score as I think a lot of people expected. And I'm actually very happy with that. I think that Martin, I'm actually a big fan of, you could say. I think he's a brilliant guy. He's very nice, and I think he's very fair. And I'm really happy that he gave that game, what he thought was appropriate. And it's not the 10.5 that everybody expected, but
yeah, I mean, you would assume that was the problem, though, right? Was that we, the question kind of lingered on is this game with its 6-year development or whatever, could it possibly live up to the hype?
Yes.
And let's not forget that 8.5 is great.
Oh, absolutely. I'm not saying it's bad. And neither is Martin.
No, but I totally agree with you. I mean, I not being a racing fan, not having any intention of playing the game, I assumed it was going to get in the 9s because it seems like a favorite of people that like that genre. But it got an 8.5. But I'm sure it'll sell millions of copies and people are still going to love it. So.
Oh, sure.
And I'm happy that I was wrong because I'm happy the PlayStation faithful have something to play.
Over the break.
Exactly.
Which is very nice.
Other than Sackboy's prehistoric moves.
Of course. How could we forget?
Number 2 up is that I wrote a quick story about Infamous 2 details that emerged via the official PlayStation magazine. So you can check that out on the site if you're interested. There's some interesting information about collectibles. Blast shards will be back, for instance. The cattle prod weapon that we've played so much with that will kind of invigorate the melee aspect. Infamous 2 is called the Amp. Those mutants we saw in the trailer are called the Corrupted, so there's a lot of random information.
Right. It's fun for the fanboy in all of us.
Exactly.
Yes.
And the one thing that people seem to be the most disappointed with, which is surprising, was that I noted that I think Nate Fox is the one who's the director of the game, told him that it's going to be rated T for teen, just like Infamous. And the first one. Some people were disappointed by that, but I was like, Infamous was still a gritty, dark game with some adult overtones. So
a teen game can still have all the violence you need to be realistic and to have action.
Exactly. It's just not over the top.
Exactly.
So number 3 is Double Fine, which is a nice little small studio run by the one Tim Schafer here in San Francisco, announced their new downloadable game. It's called Stacking, and it's going to be a puzzle game. Comes out in Q2 2011. That just was notable to me, Ryan, because I played Costume Quest for the first time this week, and it is a hell of a game. Have you played it?
I'm actually, I get more and more excited because everybody keeps saying that, and I haven't downloaded it yet, but I gotta.
It is weird. It's just a bizarre, unique game, and I think you especially going to like it, and you'll see why when you play it.
Okay, I'm excited. Is that because there are cute, adorable characters in it?
No, because I think you're going to like the battle system in the game.
Okay, I'm excited.
You'll know what I mean when you see it.
I can't wait.
Disappointingly, Portal 2 has been delayed again. This broke right after we recorded Beyond last week, so a lot of you probably already know. The game was supposed to come out, I think, in February. Valve now says it'll be out April 18th. So, more time.
What's coming out February 15th? There was a game coming out right after Valentine's Day.
Is it Killzone?
No, wasn't it? Well, I mean, it might be. I'm terrible. That's the one problem with putting me in charge of Podcast Beyond is I'm very bad at dates. So I will say that there was a game that was supposed to come out February 15th. And
I mean, it could be Killzone. It could be Dead Space.
It was. Well, that's gonna just bother me now. And I bet all the listeners are screaming at their computers and their iPods because they know the answer and they just can't communicate it to me.
No, it's disappointing.
That's okay.
That's all right.
Irrelevant. Let's move on.
The final piece of news is that Sony is going to reveal a PlayStation 3 exclusive on December 12th. Now, Greg and I wrote a kind of a conjecture piece about what we think it can be. Clements, you didn't take part in this piece, so I'm kind of curious what you think it's going to be.
I wasn't even invited to this piece. Oh.
Really?
Yeah. No, Greg never told me about it. In fact, just as you said that, that's the first I've heard of it.
Really? You didn't even see it on the site?
Didn't see it on the site.
A lot of discussion. It has like 600 something comments on it.
Beautiful.
Well, because we talked about what can, I was saying, it's probably going to be Uncharted 3. That will keep it in line with all previous announcements of Uncharted games and also the 2-year cycle that this series seems to be on because it was out in 07, 09, so you'd think it would be 11.
Right.
But on the other hand, I mean, who's to say it can't be something else? I understand, for instance, Sony doesn't necessarily control Crash Bandicoot anymore, but wouldn't it be cool if Crash Bandicoot was going to be rebooted? Or something I said was, wouldn't it be cool if Square and Sony got together and said, like, Final Fantasy VII is going to be remade and it's going to be on PlayStation 3 exclusively?
Don't even tease me with that.
So what do you think, Clements? If you were just going to say, like...
I would probably put my money in that Uncharted 3 idea just because that sounds very reasonable, but... If I could control it, if I could decide what this exclusive game would be, I would love to see something new. I want to see something new. I still want to get a sweet PlayStation 3 game that we've never played before, and something for us to enjoy. All of us PlayStation nuts. So
I agree. I did say new IP would be cool. Greg shut it down pretty quick though, saying that. This is going to be a big event.
And it's the holiday season, and they want to boost the energy of the PlayStation fan base up. Make sure that people have PlayStation on the mind when they go holiday shopping, buy all their PlayStation 3s.
Which is why it's going to be a Spyro the Dragon reboot.
It could be a Spyro the Dragon reboot. Wait, and this is on December 12th?
December 12th.
And what's this actual event? Is it televised? Is it?
As far as I understand, I think. I'm not sure. I think the Spike event is the day before the VGAs or whatever, and then they're doing their own Sony's own event. I think it is televised, but I'm not positive about that actually.
And the VGAs is where we'll see that next BioWare game, right?
Yep. We talked about this last week, or did this come out?
It came up. It came up.
I mean, I assume it's going to be maybe Mass Effect 3, although I think Shattered Steel is a pretty open possibility for that.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I remember you talking about that.
Or a Mass Effect spin-off.
Very nice,
Who knows?
Very nice.
Whatever it is exciting. BioWare is pretty much flawless. So.
Well, wow. Look at that.
Well, the team that does Mass Effect anyway is pretty much flawless. I wasn't a huge fan. I should be fair. I wasn't a huge fan of Dragon Age.
I saw that game and had absolutely no interest in it whatsoever.
I don't understand. I don't understand why people like that game either. Although I do understand why you would play it on the PC because I did see the PC interface and it looks a lot cleaner, a lot nicer, but it didn't translate well to console. IMO. So that's it for the Roper Report, brief Roper Report.
Yes, thank you very much for the news.
Yes.
For any of your video game news needs, make sure you come to IGN.com because that's where we obviously post the majority of our information.
Yes.
If you're downloading this podcast off iTunes, you should probably check out our site too because it's pretty awesome. We would like to move on to. I can probably go down our normal topics, right?
Yeah, for the time being, why not?
Because I think what we should do. Is discuss what's going to be coming out and what is out this week. Don't you think so?
Yeah.
Because people that tune in want to know what games they should buy.
Yes.
And so I think you should tell them.
Okay. Well, this is the official IGN list of upcoming PlayStation software on all 3 platforms by the IGN editors. Nice. I like that one. That was a nice long. Yeah. That was a long, well-thought-out one.
I think we lost 50% of our listeners right there. Go ahead.
I like to think that the Fireside Chats are for the true fans of Podcast Beyond anyway. So there are 4 games out for PS3 this week. Gran Turismo, obviously, 5 is out. We gave it an 8.5. Majin, is that what it's called?
Majin and the
Forsaken Kingdom. That is out. I'm not sure. We gave that something.
7, I believe.
7, yes.
It was close to that. I know that Christine reviewed that, and I saw it in its rough draft stages. So but I believe that the score is a 7.
Okay.
I'm going to say it is around that area.
Right on. Splatterhouse, which is a reimagining, I think, of the old Genesis game, comes out. And Red Dead Redemption Undead Nightmare Collection, which I think is just the game bundled with the DLC, is out this week.
Excellent.
Nothing on PS2. On PSP, something you'll probably be excited about. Michael Jackson, The Experience.
Oh, man.
Comes out this week.
It's going to be an experience, all right.
Are you reviewing that? Who's reviewing that?
Yeah, that's me. I actually only have the Wii version of the game right now, currently sitting at my desk. Not the PSP version.
Okay. Well, that's out on PSP, and that's it, I think, for PSP.
Okay.
Well, what say Zombie Blognack?
Let us take a look. Thanks to you, really, because honestly, I got to throw this out there for all the Beyond fans. You did most of the work for this podcast, I would say.
No, it's okay.
I collected our topics, which we will discuss in a bit, but you went through all the news. You got the Zombie Blognack update.
That's all right. We got to help each other out.
Yeah, well, and I appreciate it. So for those listeners that are just joined the Podcast Beyond family, we like to talk about what comes out on the PlayStation Store every week, and we do that through the usage of the, I don't know, was this information is usually pulled just off the PlayStation blog, right?
Yeah,
Still?
well, we get a Google document. They do so on the blog. They do something called the drop, I think, on Mondays, and they'll tell you what's coming out. But then we get a document straight from Google that tells us, or not from Google, a Google document straight from Sony that tells us specifically what's coming out, how much it costs, and the discounts and stuff like that.
Excellent. So that's where we are pulling this information. It's not totally made up. But this week, very exciting. Oh, man, I didn't even realize this came out on PS3 also. Pac-Man Championship Edition DX.
Yeah, I downloaded it last night.
That's a big one.
Yeah, it's a huge one.
Now, this is a huge one because it received a perfect 10.
Yeah, we gave it a perfect 10.
From Damon Hatfield. And I would say that is a good score.
Yeah, the game is I played the game yesterday. It's hard. It's meaty though. Like I was on this, so I didn't really understand what I was doing as far as how much content was in the game. So I just went to the first stage, and then I did all the time trials and all this, that, and the other thing. And I was like, oh, so that's the entire game, And I did it in an hour, and I was like, okay. Well, that was fun, and I earned a bunch of trophies and stuff. And then I looked, and I'm like, wait a minute, there's a bunch of stages, and they all have these time trials and all have these individuals. So I'm like, this game is actually huge. This is a huge game, and it's only $10. But just so we don't have to do it later. There is a trophy tip. That's the trophy tip for this week. Is Pac-Man's a good one for trophies. The first game I just played the 5-minute time trial, whatever. 5 trophies. Played the 10-minute trial after that. Got 3 more trophies. So that thing rains trophies, but to get them all, you need to play all of the game modes and do all the time trials. So we'll just get that out of the way now.
It rains trophies.
Rains trophies.
It's
raining trophies.
Download Pac-Man Championship Edition DX. Not only a fantastic game, but a rain of trophies.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what else you can get this week. Dragon's Lair. What's the old I
think that might be
animated game. Isn't that it?
I think that is it. Yeah.
Dream Chronicles. Ooh, I like that name. It's a good name. Beat Sketcher. Man, these are some good titles this week. And here's my favorite, Spelunker HD.
Yeah, which I think is Spelunker is a pretty big game in Japan, and I think that is either a re-release or a reimagining or something. I think that's supposed to be the game that's super ridiculously difficult.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. And you have it. This was your article, right? You wrote, if you're downloading Beat Sketcher, be careful! ! It only works with the PlayStation Move controller.
Yeah, I don't want someone to get burned. You know what I mean? I think it does warn you though. So.
Yes, excellent. Here's demos. We also, for the same games, Dream Chronicles, Pac-Man Championship Edition DX, and Magic the Gathering Duels of the Planeswalkers. Now, I actually used to be a big Magic fan back in the day, and I really appreciate Magic the Gathering. I mean, it's a fantastically complex card game.
It is.
But, dear Lord, do they have some fantastic titles, and you can always recognize when a fantasy writer has come up with a name for something.
Because it's extra nerdy.
Duels of the Planewalkers, or Planeswalkers.
Planeswalker, yeah, it's a lot of plurals.
Okay, we have a lot of DLC this week. Oh, this is exciting. Mafia 2, Naughty Bear, Joe Danger, 3D Ultra Mini Golf Adventures 2, Enslaved, Odyssey to the West. I started that game. I actually really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's cool.
Splatterhouse, Lara Croft and the Guardian of Light, Front Mission Evolved, Hawks 2, Mod Nation Racers, and Need for Speed Hot Pursuit. Oh, and there's even more, but mainly it's just the usual Rock Band 3, Guitar Hero. There's DLC for Magic the Gathering.
And Power Gig, I think, has
and
DLC.
Power Gig, Rise of the Sixth String. Very nice. PS1 Classics, Arc the Lad 2.
Yeah.
Now, Arc the Lad is a old JRPG, correct?
Yes.
And I think fondly remembered.
Oh,
although
yeah, definitely.
I don't actually remember playing it.
Definitely. Although I'd never played Arc the Lad 2, and I was talking to Nix yesterday, and as you see, there's DLC basically for Arc the Lad 2, which was, I think, some sort of PlayStation 1 game that might have only been released in Japan or maybe here as well that allowed you to take your save over and then play your friends and stuff like that. So I think they've released that whole package
very nice.
For people to play, which is nice.
This is great, man. Can you it's amazing how many options video game players have nowadays.
It's awesome.
Do you remember when you felt like you had you had your Nintendo and you had a bunch of Nintendo games, but it's like you kind of knew you knew what was going on. Now, no, you can never keep track.
Yeah, it's awesome. That's great.
Yeah, it's fantastic. PSP store, the PSP Pit Stop. That's fantastic.
I didn't make that. Greg made that.
That was a Greg. Well, it's great.
God bless.
Good job, Greg. New titles for the PSP are a little scarce, says Colin, but we have Worms Battle Islands, which can be purchased for $24.99. It's That's a hefty price for a PSP game. Also, Bomberman is available for the random price of $11.99.
Yeah, it's strange, isn't it? $11.99.
Oh my God! Leave it to the PlayStation Minis to have entertaining titles. Jelly Car 2.
Jelly Car 2. I think someone in the comments on the story was excited about Jelly Car. So I think it was like an iPhone game or something.
Oh, okay.
So
cool.
I think it costs like $1 on the iPhone, and it costs like $4 or something, or $3 on PlayStation stores.
Very nice. And reason number 457 as to why I love Colin Moriarty. On the side of my story, it says myriad discounts because there are a lot of discounts.
Yeah, you don't have to read all those.
There
are, I think, 40 games that are almost 40 games that have discounts.
Unbelievable. So definitely,
there's some good ones in there.
Definitely hit up the PlayStation Network this week if you haven't for myriad discounts.
Definitely. I think Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker's like
Peace
half off.
Walkers, yeah, in there. Fat Princess is in there. Ooh, Dissidia's in there. Mm-hmm. Well, is Dissidia just Do you know what the price drop was on that?
No, I don't.
Interesting.
I think it might be half off though, because I think Metal Gear was half off, so that might be all the PSP games.
All right, unbelievable. A lot of stuff to save money on.
Yeah, most of the games are minis that were overpriced to begin with.
Okay, good. So they're basically just righting the wrongs of the past.
Yeah, trying. I think all the minis should really be $1 if you want to push them. But
well, that is excellent. I think that concludes our PSN update for this week.
I don't see why not.
And the pick of the week?
I guess it has to. Well, actually, I was gonna say it has to be Gran Turismo, but Pac-Man's pretty damn good.
Here's where the chats really start.
Yeah, I mean, without an advocate for racing games here with us today, it's gonna be hard.
It's true. I mean, in a situation like this, I feel like it has to go to Pac-Man, if only because it wasn't that obnoxious amount of anticipation. And it's clearly it doesn't only have the fantastic gameplay, but it also has the great package, mm-hmm. Whereas I only had a chance to skim through Martin's review of Gran Turismo this morning because we were trying to put the podcast together, but it seemed like it sounded like he was really impressed with the simulation aspects of the gameplay. Like I believe in his closing comments, he said it's like a 10 out of 10 simulator wrapped up in a 5 out of 10 game. So yeah, I mean it's rough and it's unfortunate, and it's really interesting to see a game that they pay that much attention to the gameplay that they kind of forget, to like polish the outside of it.
Right.
Which is, according to Martin, what happened.
Yeah, I mean, I think I remember even watching a couple people play the game last week or earlier this week, and just kind of remarking that the interface is a little clumsy, which I think is what Martin talks about, and the load times seem really extraordinary, which is strange because I think the game has like a several gig install, so that's a little disappointing.
Yeah, it really is.
And I think Hillary was tweeting today that that he thinks Forza is better, and the game does a lot of things better. So that's surprising. I mean, what I'm really interested in is to see how the racing fans in The Office take to the game, especially Mark Ryan, because
he's been waiting for it.
Without the beloved Chris Roper in The Office, we don't have a huge racing fan on editorial that review games, I don't think, anymore, except for Geddes.
Geddes is a big one, but yeah.
So I'm interested to see what I haven't talked to either of them about the game, and I want to see how they take to it too. Again, it seems like a great game. An 8.5 is a great score. But again, like, I think it did fall into the trap of not being able to live up to the hype that is created inherently when you make a game for that long and then delay it that many times, because the game was supposed to come out in like 2008. So
well, I think I think we'll have to go with Pac-Man on this one, but with certainly with an honorable mention to Gran Turismo.
Definitely.
I mean, that's going to be on everybody's minds. That's going to be, I'd say, probably the most purchased PS release that we'll have this holiday season.
Right.
But yeah, that's our pick of the week for this week. Now the next topic is Greg takes his shirt off, but Greg is not here to take his shirt off.
Nope.
So that's a shame. And we've already gone through the trophy tips. Remember to download Pac-Man, enjoy it. Amazing game, reigns trophies.
Yeah, absolutely reigns.
Which brings us to topic of the week.
Yes.
And here's where the Fireside Chats reaches its true maturity.
It's apex.
It's apex. We are going to just chat. We're going to chat about some topics and some questions that readers wrote into. And if you want to join the Podcast Beyond family, if you want to partake in this discussion, please, I encourage you to send a message to beyond@ign.com.
Mm-hmm.
That's just beyond@ign.com. And we will look through your questions. And as Greg often mentions, please make them short. It's very difficult to get through a lot of questions if they are giant novels, which is surprisingly still what we get most of the time.
Yeah. We appreciate the effort. But
yeah, for sure. And I mean, it's great user engagement, but honestly, we just don't have the time to read massive emails.
Exactly.
And here's something, Colin, that I was just thinking about. Let's start the chat off with this. It's amazing to me that what you and I are saying right now and what people are listening to out there is being heard all across the world simultaneously.
Yes.
I mean, it's really interesting when you think about, like, some people are driving, some people are sitting at an office somewhere in Wisconsin, listening.
Yeah.
I really hope we have some listeners in Wisconsin.
Yeah, if you're sitting in an office listening to this in Wisconsin, please email us and let us know there.
Yes.
What I like to think about is just a person sitting in like a fire-lit living room and the room doesn't even have a television or anything in it, and they're just sitting on a couch staring straight ahead listening to the podcast. On their Bose radio.
Brilliant. See, actually, I was thinking about, I really wanted to go to the liquor store across from the office and get like a bottle of champagne and bring in some glasses for us. But I almost did. But I was worried that you wouldn't drink champagne and it would be a waste of money.
No, I drink champagne. But
okay.
I think we can even, when we do Fireside Chats 3 in the future, what we'll do is we'll bring in like something real classy. We'll smoke cigars and we'll
I don't know if we could smoke cigars in the podcast room. Our like CEO walks by, it's just a cloud of smoke in the glass doors.
Drink bourbon.
You know what I was thinking about? It's like a fine like scotch or something. The problem is that I can't really. I have a real hard time drinking that stuff.
Yeah, we could just relegate it to a glass, an iced glass, and just sip it slowly and leisurely.
Yeah, I would do that. I would drink scotch on Fireside Chats 3.
Okay.
Do you like? Is that your choice there?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the classiest drink I can think of right now that would suit the situation.
But anyway,
so let's get into it.
Yeah. It is nice to have an international Beyond audience that's listening to us.
Yeah, it's
and we
awesome.
Appreciate it.
And I'm glad that you guys enjoy the show. Thank you for all the kind compliments on Twitter and Facebook and all those things. And like I said, I do my best to reach out to everyone that messages me. So
you're definitely good.
So if I haven't for some reason, it's either because you've irritated me or because I've just forgotten. So I apologize.
There you go. So let us begin Fireside Chats 2. This comes from Amadou. I want to say that I'm close with that, but Amadou writes, Ryan and Colin, so happy to hear you're doing another Fireside Beyond. That's Fireside Chats, but Fireside Beyond is good also. Do you think graphics play a role in gameplay, or do games this gen just offer updated new mechanics with a graphical coat of paint? Possible jump-off points. I love how he's giving us she is giving us jump-off points. LA Noire and facial recognition tech, HD remakes and potential value add-ons, and 3D move games and spatial gameplay.
Yeah.
So this is an interesting topic. Do you want to start us off with any thoughts?
Well, I think what strikes me immediately is inherently graphics shouldn't affect gameplay.
Right.
But I think that he has a point in that it's getting to a point where I guess it's going to start affecting gameplay as we, again, like he says, like appreciate the spatial nature of the place in which you're playing the game, for instance, with Connect or Move. And I guess there's something to be said about gameplay with games like Mass Effect, for instance, that look really nice, that are also immersive experiences that you tend to be more immersed, and therefore the gameplay might be heightened if a game looks good. But I mean, that's as far as I take it.
Yeah, for sure.
What do you think?
I'm going to have to say that by its nature, visuals will never supplant or completely take over what gameplay is supposed to be, because gameplay by its nature, right, by its absolute fundamental nature, is interaction. And so I suppose on an absolute base level you can interact with something by viewing it, but I think ultimately the point is to have a sort of what's the word? It's slipping out of my head. You were basically acting on it like you were acting on it. Visually, if you're just watching something, you're a passive. That's what I meant to say. You're passive. But what the point of an actual gameplay is to actually have physical interaction with something.
Right.
Whether it's with your body, if it's with just your using a controller, even waving something around with a move. So that will always be the most important thing in a video game. Otherwise, you just have a movie.
I agree.
But in terms of, whether it's a graphical coat of paint, I mean, yeah, basically I think that so far all we've seen are the visuals help complement the experience as a whole and not necessarily dictate the gameplay. But I think we'll definitely see, like you said, with motion controls and with 3D. I wonder if 3D will ever actually have that much of an impact.
No, I don't think
gameplay.
It will until.
How would you do that? I mean.
Yeah, I mean like at what point is something like 3D, and then at what point is it basically real? I mean, not real as intangible, but real as in it's basically in the room with you.
Yes,
like
exactly.
Whether it projects something in your room or something, or like we said, somehow takes into account your room and then shows it to you in like a mirror image of but it's graphically enhanced or whatever. I just I kind of wonder. I guess this kind of goes back to the argument we've had about motion gaming in general or 3D gaming in general, that certain fundamentals of the gaming just haven't changed. And you can even go so far as to say gameplay hasn't really changed, because everything that you play today, with rare exception, I would look at games like Flower, for instance, as an exception, are basically just add-ons and spins on gameplay that is actually old. When you think about platforming, I mean, Pitfall and Super Mario Brothers and all those games are old platformers. That really hasn't changed. Even when you play New Super Mario Brothers on Wii, which came out last year, or whatever, it's basically just Super Mario Brothers. From 1985. It's 25 years later, or whatever. So.
Jeez, it's amazing. How much time has gone by.
So the core fundamentals of gameplay haven't really changed as the industry has evolved technically. And I think what we're seeing is just kind of spin-offs on things that have already been done, which is fine, because I think there are only certain ways that a game can really be effectively played, and that people want to effectively play games, which is why I think that software in Wii, for instance, doesn't sell very well anymore. But that's just my take, and I could be totally wrong. I guess I'm a little conservative in that sense with gaming, in that I don't want too much change. I want the focus to be on storytelling. I mean, that's what's really important to me right now. Is I want it.
Storytelling.
Yeah, when you have a game like Mass Effect 2 or Fallout New Vegas or something like that, what really keeps you coming back isn't the gameplay, because I don't think the gameplay in either game, especially Fallout, is stellar. I think what makes you come back is the ambience and the environment and the story and the narrative and the branching plots and things of that nature. And so I think the more they can do with that, in my opinion, will keep me enamored with games for a very long time, especially as you're spending more and more time and you want to have a return in investment on your time.
Right. So this is interesting, though, because you say that story is one of the most important things to you in a game. So I'm surprised that you don't have as strong of a passion for film or something like that, because that is fundamentally just story.
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
So I mean, would you say that you're also you have an equal passion for film, or do you just like having that sort of active experience with controlling a game?
Yeah, I like films. I mean, I don't. It's there's only 24 hours in a day. So when I think about how I want to sit down and people that are on my PSN list often see me on Netflix, no doubt, and I'm not usually watching movies. I'm usually watching documentaries, and when you watch or when you have 3 hours a day or 10 hours a week or something, which you want to watch a film or any kind of television program or whatever, you have to kind of decide what you want to watch. So I'm not super into films because I'm kind of jaded on them, not because they've necessarily gotten any worse, but because like nothing really interests me
Nothing
anymore.
appeals to you.
And I think I get my storytelling not only from games, but I think mostly from reading. So I mean that's kind of like where I focus on the storytelling aspect of things or whatever. But you're right. I mean, I guess that kind of suggests that I do need an interactive kind of feature to storytelling, and it was kind of subconscious. I never really even thought about it. So,
gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, I think the one thing that I'd like to end with is just that we can both probably agree that the rate at which just the raw technical ability of visuals to like look good, that increases way more than how game developers fundamentally tackle gameplay and like evolve gameplay. I think it's much easier for the tech to advance than our complete thought process behind what a game is.
Right.
I think those they both increase over time, but they do so at very different rates.
Yeah, it's a great way of looking at it. And your hand motions actually that obviously the listeners
listeners can't see it.
That reminds me of like really just a line chart of an exponential growth in technology and graphical use, but really just a very mild, like you said, very mild increase in gameplay. I mean, even when you think about Dragon Warrior or Ultima or something like that, and then you think about whatever Disgaea game that came out, or whatever NIS America game that just was released. Whatever, these games are really not different.
Yeah.
So they just look different.
Yeah, exactly.
So
exactly.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. So let's move on. We have a little message from Macho Mustachio. I like that name.
Yes.
How much longer do you think the Call of Duty craze is going to go on for? They can't keep selling ridiculously well forever, can they? Good question.
You're right, they can't.
They can't, and I mean, I think people eventually move on. But people are still playing Mario. People still gobble up Halo quite a bit. So I would say that there's definitely going to be a couple more iterations, maybe before we start to see a significant decline in sales, right?
I think so too. I mean, I think it was surprising with everything taken into consideration that Black Ops even sold better than Modern Warfare 2 so far, which it has, which is surprising, and I'm happy for Treyarch that happened. But he's right in that it just fads kind of come and go, and I think what we really need to focus more on with Call of Duty is like what are the aspects of those games that make people come back for them every year, even if it's like that, everyone knows a person that has an Xbox or a PlayStation 3 that really just buys Call of Duty and maybe like another shooter, Killzone or something like that, or Halo or whatever.
Right.
And it's like what really I think what developers need to do is focus on like what it is about those games that have broad appeal or whatever, and try to replicate that outside of the Call of Duty franchise, which is I think what EA tried to do with Medal of Honor, and they pretty much failed to do that because it's definitely not a great game or even a good game in my opinion. But I think it's an accessible shooter that's as hard as you want it to be or as easy as you want it to be. It's got robust online mode, which is good for people. I think I don't like playing games online most of the time, but I know a lot of people do, and I think that's what like my cousin back in New York or something, and you see him online, he plays Madden and he plays Call of Duty and and whatever else, and that's it. I saw him playing Sports Champions randomly, which is weird. So I think that the game appeals to that kind of person, but it kind of goes back to the argument of what is a casual gamer? Are these people casual? Are the hardcore buying these games? And even your point of Super Mario Brothers, which was interesting, is that it's true that Galaxy sold really well, and Galaxy 2 sold really well, and Super Mario Sunshine sold really well and stuff.
Right.
But even when you think about those games, and then you think about the original Mario, which sold exponentially better than those games.
You think so?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I
wonder what the current total sales are for for all the downloadable iterations and stuff.
I mean,
interesting.
I think it would be interesting. I don't think they release those numbers, which is disappointing. But when you think about the fact that like Mario was attached to every NES basically, whether it was with Duck Hunt or Track and Field or whatever, and that unit and the NES obviously is one of the best-selling units of all time, gaming systems. It sees the decline that he was actually kind of referring to, is that these games still sell well, but they don't sell as well. So I think that's what we'll see in Call of Duty the next 5 years, or whatever. Is the games will sell really well, but I think Black Ops is probably the peak of how well the games will sell, especially as we move into the next generation and there's more compelling games probably released. And
okay,
yeah, what do you
think? Interesting. Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, it's just I don't know, man. It'll simmer down. It'll simmer down eventually, but right now, yeah, I don't know. I'm honestly not as invested in the Call of Duty franchise as other franchises, so I'm not as I'm not as passionate about where it goes. I'm interested to see where it goes, but it's not like it really affects me as a gamer. I haven't actually played a Call of Duty seriously since the original Modern Warfare, which I played the single-player campaign, enjoyed it, and then put it aside and pretty much forgot about it.
They're shooters, It's like, and then we were kind of talking about this. What I really want is people to get into different kinds of shooters. You know what I mean? One of the companies I bring up sometimes is Raven, which I think makes really hardcore shooters. And I would love for people like Wolfenstein, the re-release of Wolfenstein.
What did they recently do? They did Singularity.
And Singularity is a really cool game. It's really moody and they do certain things right. And those games are really hard, which I think I play them on the hardest difficulty, but they're really hard games. And I wish people would get more into kind of go into that direction. But I think it kind of shows you that people don't go into that direction, A, because those games maybe lack a realistic twist that people enjoy. Wolfenstein obviously is a World War II game, but it's about supernatural things, and obviously those kinds of things didn't really happen. And Singularity is a supernatural game too. So I think you can start to examine exactly what needs to happen to make these games sell, which I think is like realistic shooters, whether they're future shooters or somewhere in the past, Vietnam, Cold War, and stuff like that, and kind of harp on that and see how well those games sell outside of Call of Duty. And then you'd have kind of a situation where you might have something to compete with Call of Duty, or Call of Duty just keeps going. But I can't imagine.
just keeps going.
I just can't imagine that Call of Duty is going to keep selling well, especially without Infinity Ward.
Well, Call of Duty is the Energizer Bunny of the shooters, the shooter genre. So we shall see. Let's move on to a different Call of Duty question.
Okay.
This comes from Tony. Whether you're reading posts on the official Black Ops forum or over on GAF, a lot of PS3 owners seem to be having major problems with this game, from frame rate issues to lag, freezing, disconnections. Black Ops for PS3 is creating quite an uproar from the community, according to Tony. Who knows what this guy knows? I'm interested to know what type of experience the Beyond crew have had when having with the game online, and what the predictions are when it comes to a response from Treyarch/Activision. Do you expect the game to eventually see top-notch performance, or are we pretty much stuck with what we have right now? Now, this is interesting. Did you play Black Ops on the PS3? Because I can't help Tony out much. I haven't really seen it.
Yeah, I played one stage. I played the Cuba stage, and that was it. Because we have other games. I want to get back to it, but it probably won't happen until Christmas.
So you haven't played it much online, then?
No, I haven't played any online.
Okay. Then clearly I have chosen the wrong question.
No, I mean, I think I've heard some, this actually kind of ties into another question that you have, which is just about patching games and stuff like that. So why don't we read that question, and then we can kind of tie maybe something.
Let's tie them together.
Yeah.
Hey, Beyond, my name is Jack, and I just wondered what your thoughts were on the game industry abusing the patch process. It seems almost every other game is shipped broken, i.e. New Vegas, Black Ops, multiplayer, rather than run a strong beta or delay a game. They're just patching this stuff. So what do we say about that? So I guess it sounds like Black Ops has some not so great multiplayer on the PS3.
Yeah, I mean, I heard that it didn't even work when the game first came out.
That's not good.
At all. And plus the PlayStation Network's down from time to time, which is kind of frustrating for people. But I think abusing is really a perfect word, because
absolutely,
because patching has great potential, especially for. I don't want to use even Bayonetta as an example, but Bayonetta ran really poorly when it came out on PlayStation
terrible.
3, as you know. I mean, it's one of your favorite games of the year. And they did patch and they made it run better. But that begs the question, why didn't you just do that to begin with? I think what this kind of gets into is something that's beyond us, which is the relationship between developers and publishers. Because I think you would think that with a game like Treyarch probably knew that the game wasn't running up to snuff with Black Ops. But Activision wants the game, and the date, they spent all this money to advertise the game, and the game is going to sell huge numbers and stuff, and they just want the game, and they know that they can patch it in the future, which was something that you couldn't do with the Atari, the NES, or the SNES, or the PlayStation, or the PlayStation 2.
Right.
So you can do, PC games have been dealing with patches for a while. So I agree. I think it is being abused.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because the patching was meant to do something else. I really think that there are problems that can't be foreseen with games. I think Fallout's probably a good example. There's no doubt that Obsidian knew that there was a lot of problems with Fallout, and they probably knew them before the game was released. But that game is bound to come up with bugs that no one could have foreseen and knew about, especially when the DLC starts rolling out and stuff, and the game starts to interact with the DLC. And that's what patching's for. You know what I mean? Patching isn't to release a buggy product that will then be immediately patched. And that's what pisses me off the most, is when I put in a game sometimes before the game even comes out, and there's already a patch for it.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's inexcusable. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
If you knew that the game was broken, then but again, I don't think it's really the developer's fault.
No, yeah, I totally agree. It's often, I mean, there's tons of things behind the scenes that we will never see. There's political stuff, there's financial stuff. It's just a ton of they have to make dates, they have to do this, they have to do that. So I definitely don't think that the developers have an easy job in meeting these requirements. But yeah, there's a big difference between realizing, oh goodness, there's this weird bug that we just did not find, let's patch it, to, well, our game is not done, but we got to release, we'll just patch as soon as we can. Those are very different mentalities, and I can totally respect a developer going back and fixing something they just didn't catch, even after vigorous testing, because that's just how software works, to just releasing a broken game, which is, a real disservice to consumers.
I agree.
Though I doubt people don't have internet access anymore. I feel like the grand majority of gamers have some sort of internet access.
Sure, but I still do feel bad for the people that maybe can't. Even if they have internet access, but they don't have a wire to run to their old 20 gig PlayStation 3, or with the Xbox, the old Xbox, you have to have a hard wire. So even if you live in a wireless situation, you can't obviously get online without the add-on or whatever. I do feel. I do feel bad for those people, but I do take heart in the fact that there seems to be companies and games, like even Gran Turismo 5 was delayed. Obviously, they could have probably patched that game. Media Molecule delayed Little Big Planet. They probably could have released that game and patched it, but they didn't. Valve just delayed Portal 2 to work on it. So I think you can take heart in the fact that not all companies that are they're just releasing games that are broken or whatever. But at the same time, you have to keep in mind that the funding for a lot of companies, especially smaller developers, comes from the publisher, and the publisher probably has the final say on when those games come out, and they want to make their money back. So if a game is going to get delayed 6 months because it needs to be patched, they can just roll out those patches over the 6 month period. Even if the game takes a critical hit as a result, they still want to make their money back. I mean, it always comes back to the bottom line. So you have to assume that that's the reason why it's happening. But
yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
But I think we could both agree, abusive patching in the industry.
Yeah, it's perfect terminology.
Let's move on to another topic. Hey guys, love the show. Why, thank you. My topic suggestion is what you think of the fact that Shinji Mikami is partnering up with Bethesda for his next game, as well as the possibility that Kenji Inafune could be headed to a Western studio, which I think we've discussed in the past. Do you think that the future of game development is a blend of talent from both the East and the West? As always, keep up the good work. Beyond from Skyline Ninja. And should I save the quote for later?
No, say the quote. The quote's good. I like the quote.
Here's the quote that Skyline Ninja ends his email with. A man once asked me if I saw the glass half full or half empty. I turned and said neither. I see a glass twice as big as it needs to be.
Yeah, that's deep, man.
I love it. That's fantastic. I wonder where that came from.
I'm drowning in that quote. It's so deep.
If Skyline Ninja came up with that quote, you should not be writing into a podcast. You should be like saving the world from turmoil.
Writing poetry. At least.
So we've discussed this a little bit in the past, but I just kind of wanted to touch on it again. I mean, Mikami, if you don't already know, is one of the minds behind Resident Evil. Just recently directed Vanquish, which Colin and I are both fans of. And now he is partnering with Bethesda for the next game. And this is exciting.
It is exciting.
And I think that it's a very good point and something that is not often seen, at least by us, the partnering of East and West. I mean, there's people outside. I got distracted. I thought they had a little dog, but apparently they just
were waiting for something to run by. Yeah.
But yeah, a blending of East and Western developers, I think, would be fascinating. But at the same time, we've kind of seen it before. For example, let me go to Front Mission Evolved, which was just recently released. That was developed by I don't know if they're based in the United States, but it was a non-Japanese studio handling a Japanese property under the supervision of a Japanese staff, right? Now that game did not go swimmingly well in terms of the reviews. Now I played some multiplayer of it, and I thought it was fun, and I thought it had some potential, so I don't want to pass like a final judgment on it and just dismiss it outright as being bad. Final judgment. But that's a situation where I wonder if when you kind of have that's more of a clashing though. Like the Japanese, the original Japanese studio is sort of like, this is kind of what you need to do, and maybe they didn't have as much of a reciprocal relationship. But it definitely I feel like can go either way. I think that those sorts of relationships can be really symbiotic and beneficial, and maybe they can learn from each other. But other times the East and West has such different philosophies, even right down to culturally how they work. So I don't, it's a tough call.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I don't think the future of gaming will be a combination of East versus West, but I think the potential for the best kinds of games are going to come from studios that are willing to take a page from the East and the West or whatever. We've talked about this many times in the past, but we have a lot of younger listeners, and I think what a lot of them can't grasp or just don't understand is that there was a time in gaming when nothing was coming from the West, or very little. NES, SNES, PlayStation, and even in the PlayStation 2. Everything was coming from Japan. We would read Nintendo Power or PlayStation Magazine or whatever, and we would see all these great Japanese games. We knew we had to wait about 18 months for them to get localized. It took forever for some of these games to come out. I mean, Dragon Warrior or Dragon Quest and NES came out on Famicom in '86 and didn't come out into the United States until '89. So I mean, there was really long waits between games. There was all these mix-ups with the Final Fantasy numbering, which everyone knows about because Final Fantasy games weren't localized quickly enough, and a lot of them didn't come out here. And so I think that there's exciting potential to take and harness the strengths of both West and East, because I think even though I'm down on Japanese gaming right now, I know you're not, but a lot of people are. And some people aren't. I still think that there's great strengths in what they do. They create a lot of great products over there that we used to enjoy when we were younger, and I think that there's a lot of potential. Even for Resident Evil is a Japanese game, and that's a huge game. For instance, even things I love like Mega Man or Tales of Destiny or Wild Arms. These are all Japanese games, and they're all brilliant. But at the same time, I think right now Western developers are doing pretty good stuff by themselves. Up in Edmonton with BioWare, for instance, over in Maryland with Bethesda. But like you said, like Bethesda now working on maybe Japanese-style games or having a Japanese influence is going to make the games even better because there's still something for them to contribute into gaming or whatever. And gaming wouldn't be nearly what it is right now without their influence and development skill, and we can't forget that. So I don't want to say the future is there because I think that Japan's gaming market's under 10% of the worldwide gaming market, so I don't think that their influence is going to be what it was ever again. But I think that they have great, like we said, potential to make great games still, and when you couple them with great Western studios, the potential is unlimited, and that's what's really exciting, I think, personally.
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, ultimately, I think that when creative minds get together and work in a truly symbiotic relationship, you'll have something better. But I mean, is it ever ideal like that? Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the example you give with Front Mission, I don't know anything about the development with Front Mission involved. I have the game, but I haven't played it yet. What I was most disappointed about was Square it seems like Square was trying to cater to what they thought Western markets might want out of a Front Mission game. But what we really want out of a Front Mission game, or at least I do, the niche that really liked Front Mission to begin with, is a strategy RPG, because that's what the games always were. So I think that that's why the game might not have been the hit it once was, because you're basically taking something. Gamers know what Front Mission is, and they expect something out of it, so they ignore it if they're not interested in it, and then they release something that's not Front Mission. People don't know that it's not Front Mission, but people don't care that it's not Front Mission, if that makes any sense.
Right.
So I
hear you.
So it's kind of a confusing situation.
It's tough. You can't, and of course you can't please everyone. So
no, it's like, why didn't they just make another IP for that game, and then create a Front Mission game that might appeal to someone? I've been dying for a Front Mission game since the last one came out in the States, with the exception of the DS remake of the original Famicom game in like 2004. So
yeah, you've been waiting for 6 years for this business.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
All right. Well, let's move on. So the next question that we have comes from Jonathan, and it's totally not a question; it is a comment.
Oh, okay.
This is Fireside Chats, after all. Hey, Beyond. Hope you all have been having a good month, because I'm not. I was hoping you all can cheer me up my mood, as I've been having a really bad month to say, well, all right. Now the email just degrades into gibberish. But anyway, earlier this month, my PS3 is broken down with the yellow light of death. And, well, this week I was jumped and got my iPhone stolen.
Jeez.
Any words of encouragement that can cheer me up? Thanks, and continue with your great success of the podcast.
Thank you.
That's really nice that even though Jonathan is having a rough month, he can still muster the kind words for us.
That sucks.
Now, I obviously have not gotten a yellow light of death, and I have never been mugged. So I cannot speak to say that I know exactly what you are going through. But I think that it is fair to say that we have all had rough times in our lives. And I will say, you got to keep your chin up, man.
Yeah.
Honestly, here's what I always do. This is like my little mental exercise I do when I'm having a rough time. And it can be a little intimidating, but I think it's helpful. In the grand scheme of things, you and I and Jonathan and all the Beyond listeners out there, we are absolutely infinitesimally, I can't even say it.
Infinitesimally.
I ruined the cadence of it, but anyway.
No, that's all right.
We are minuscule in comparison to the universe, you know. And it's certainly, and we know that this is not some sort of, mumbo jumbo. Like, we know that there is a very broad, wide stretching universe out there. We are extremely small parts of that. And even if we were all just to suddenly disappear, life will go on in some form or another. And I think that can be applied to all of us. And like, if we're down on gaming, if we're having a rough week at school, if you guys are in a bad relationship, life goes on. The entire purpose, in my opinion, of living is to continue to experience things, even if they are bad. They're still experiences which contribute to your time in this world, in this universe. You got to hang in there.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that's what I always try to say is even when things get really rough, really bad, there's always a silver lining,
Yeah.
So the silver lining of the PlayStation 3 breaking is like, well, you're gonna get it fixed. It's not like it's something that is irreparable.
Exactly.
At the same time, like, you got your iPhone stolen, you got jumped, which sucks. But there's multiple silver linings to that. A, you're okay.
Yep. You're writing into the podcast, so you must be okay.
B, hopefully, like, maybe, I think the worst part of getting jumped probably get your wallet stolen. So hopefully that didn't happen or whatever. And if that did, there's even a silver lining to that, is that everything's replaceable. And I think when something bad happens to me or someone does something bad to me, which happens, to everybody, what I always like to think is that if you, like, just not that I believe in the systemic karma, a karmic system, as it were, that I still like to think that if I just kind of go about my business and respect people and try to do the right thing all the time, that I'll be paid back. And the person that did that something to you is eventually going to get bit in the ass because of what they did.
Yes.
It just works like that. It's always worked like that. It's been observed by humans for thousands of years that there's a go around, come around kind of system to the way everything works. Even if it's just made up and we kind of just read into everything that happens, a good thing happens and then a bad thing happens and so on and so forth. It just seems to work out like that. So the douchebag that jumped you,
he doesn't have good things in store for him.
No, maybe maybe he's gonna get run over by a car tomorrow.
You never know. Or and you never know this for sure. Maybe this total jerk had a really rough life and he needs like a present for his daughter out of like a wedlock. You never know. You never know.
Doesn't excuse it though.
Totally not. But there is sometimes evil acts might not be as inherently evil as we think.
Like Robin Hood.
Like Robin Hood. Anyway, Jonathan, I'm sorry to hear that you are having a rough time, but hang in there. And also, Beyond listeners, y'all have each other. You're part of a big, grand family that spans the globe, and you would all stick out for each other, I think. I certainly would.
I like to think that we even span beyond the globe. I'd like to think that some astronauts listening to us in a space station right now.
That would be so cool. If we have any astronauts listening in, please write to us at beyond@ign.com. I thought you were going to go in the direction of our messages spiraling off into the ether and somewhere some ancient life is listening like, what is this place?
Yeah, I wouldn't. Well, we would if we were on radio, but this isn't probably going out into space.
Well, yes, it is.
Is it?
Because we are speaking right now and we're creating sound waves, and you don't know what sort of advanced technology the aliens have.
The collectors.
Yeah, the collectors. Oh, shoot.
I hope they don't find it.
All right. Let's do another one. Beyond. Hey, guys, I have a great idea for a Fireside Chats topic. A year in review segment. Perhaps what highlights throughout the year you have thoroughly enjoyed. Games do not have to be the main thing, but maybe movies, comics, or more. I like how he writes movies, comics, or movies.
Oh, okay. So you really want to talk about movies.
Thanks, guys. This is from Gabe, the Palmdale, California superfan. Okay. Thanks, Gabe. So, year in review, what would you say, like, top 3 things that you've been most happy with, Colin, that have gone on this year? They don't have to necessarily be games.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I think what I'm really happy about are the Jets are doing really well.
Okay, excellent.
Which is something I'm really happy about. Now, people from Long Island and other, I know there's fans in New Jersey and stuff like that too. They understand that being a Jets fan is not easy, and that the Jets are pretty much abysmal most of the time, and we've drafted badly, and we've just had a real bad time. We haven't been to the Super Bowl since in 40 years. So we. It's tough. So that actually makes, as a big Jets fan and there's a really hardcore true Jets fan that's been there through thick and thin, that's actually one of the things I'm really happy about. Now, we can say that happened this year because the playoffs from last year's season happened in 2010, and they did really well. They beat the Bengals in the first round and the Chargers in the second round, and just barely lost to the Colts and almost was to the Super Bowl. And now they're doing really well again. They have the best record in the league. So that's one of the things I'm very happy about this year. What about you? Why don't you hit me with something there?
Let's see. Some highlights for me were definitely my surprising addiction to StarCraft, which I talk about a lot. I don't want to touch on it here because it's not PlayStation.
Yeah,
but I mean, let's see, what other amazing things have happened to me this year? I mean, in general, I'd like to think that it's been a good year so far. I felt very good about myself. I've been just trying to stay healthy, which is very difficult because I don't know if you know this, Colin, but sweets, desserts, are the best things ever. I am a big dessert fan.
Really?
And it's a shame that they're so ludicrously unhealthy for
Yeah,
me.
they are.
But, within moderation, everything is good. I'm also really happy about Bayonetta, Mass Effect 2. I mean, we had a lot of fantastic games this year.
Yeah, it was surprising.
Like stunning games this year. And let's see, what else? Oh, well, here's one. My girlfriend and I have been dating for 5 years now.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Very exciting. And I think those are the big ones.
Yeah, I mean, it's in terms of gaming, I mean, I loved Heavy Rain. I loved Mass Effect 2.
And I totally forgot about Heavy Rain.
I mean, there's a lot of Mega Man 10 came out this year. Vanquish really bowled me over.
There were a ton. So many good games.
So yeah, I think
it's just a year. 1 year out of our lives.
And I think for PlayStation fans, I think it's an especially exciting year because I think this is the year that the PlayStation starts to pivot. I always kind of looked at the PlayStation as being on the fence and kind of on its back foot, kind of taking everything in, and now I think it's kind of moving forward. And I think 2011 is going to be a very good year for the Podcast Beyond listeners.
It better be, because 2012 is not going to be a good year.
No, because we're going to all die.
Because the world's going to end.
So yeah, I mean, I think that this was a good year. This was a better year than most. So yeah, that's basically it, I guess.
Cool. Do you see any good movies lately?
No, I mean, I guess the only really notable movies I saw this year was like Inception. I really liked that film a lot.
Yes. Man, didn't everybody though?
Oh, was it? Yeah, I think it was.
That was one of the most universally enjoyed movies that I've talked to people about in a while.
It was great. I think that might be like I only went to the movies like once or twice this year, I think so.
Yeah. You should go to the movies more often.
Yeah,
that's something I've always. There is something special about going to the movies. I love going to movies.
Yeah, I agree. It's just very. I saw The Road too. No, that was last year though. Yeah.
You're a bit of a you like to go home, you like to rest. That is your thing.
Yeah, I look forward to that. I work hard and then I look forward to really just like my kind of. I don't want to necessarily say my solitude, although that's sometimes.
Out.
Yeah, vegging out. Just like I look forward to just going home. I cook dinner and I just kind of chill and do whatever I want.
Yeah. Very nice. Let's do a couple quick fire ones.
Sure.
Do you think that they will add move support for Flower? Also, how cool would that game look in 3D? Honestly, I think the game looks so good right now. I don't really need 3D, and I just can't quite get into 3D yet.
No,
but I agree that particular game might be very interesting in 3D. I don't know if there's really any move support planned for that.
No, I don't think. I mean, it's a small studio, and they're working on something else.
No, the Journey, I believe. Yeah. So that game company is the name of that game company.
Right.
And they are moved on. They've already moved on to another project. They're very small, like very small. So I doubt that they would be adding move support.
Move support would actually be, I do say that move support would be actually really cool for that game, but yeah, I don't see the need. I mean, that game's kind of old, and I don't see the need for it. People have seen it and played it and done it. I don't think it's going to get any new fans from adding move support to it, so it's probably not a good use of their limited manpower. That's
okay. Got it. Moving right along. Beyond, could you guys talk about PlayStation Home? Give your thoughts on if you have used it and what Sony can do to improve Home. Thanks, Colin and Ryan. Happy Thanksgiving. Thank you.
Oh, yeah,
and Beyond, this is coming from Aaron. He actually gives his full name. I'm always hesitant to give full names on the podcast because I don't want these guys to get harassed.
Yeah, that's fine.
So we'll just say Aaron.
Okay.
So I know you have pretty much never touched Home.
No, I don't. I mean, I like the idea of it, but I don't think it's been executed
And I think both Colin and I appreciate the idea of PlayStation Home. I used it just a tiny little bit when it first came out. Haven't touched it since. I've heard that improvements have been made over time. It's just the type of thing where I don't really want to go through all the trouble of logging in and downloading stuff, all for like a very basic social networking experience.
Right.
Because to me, the purpose of social networking is to be incredibly fast and fluid, and it doesn't you don't skip a beat. Like, that's why I love like stuff like Twitter for iPhone, where you're basically like, this is something really you want to share with someone. You literally press a button, type a message, click, and it's there for all to see. The point of social networks should be to minimize micromanagement. And that's actually something that's one of the reasons, as you know, I've been getting so upset with Facebook. It's just that all the thousands of people that friend me, all you Beyond listeners, and it's great to be friends with you on Facebook, but the fact that that you can't just be my friend and I actually have to confirm and then like add you to a list so that you can see the right things. What a pain in the neck.
Yeah, it is.
What a pain.
I agree. Facebook is becoming tedious. And I think that was the thing with Home, is that nice idea, poor execution, kind of a misallocation of manpower to maybe do something cooler for PlayStation 3 or whatever. I don't really think a lot of people care about Home, especially now.
Yeah.
But maybe I'm wrong. I mean, I haven't given it much of a shake because it just doesn't appeal to me even on the most base level.
So my question then, and the follow-up question that Aaron writes here, is what would you do if you were suddenly given supreme power over the PlayStation verse? What would you do to make Home an experience that you're like, you get home, you fry up your chicken cutlets, you're ready to relax, and Cheryl is like, just chilling, and she's like, I want you to go do some home stuff. What would you do?
I don't know. It's a good question. I mean, I think it would be cool to have some more base interactivity with people on there, so far as like you can, I guess, find your friends or whatever and kind of go to same space just to even compare trophies or whatever. Have some sort of like maybe even visual representation of trophies or games that you've played and let people kind of see your personal space and stuff like that. But I think what they're doing is actually the right idea, like having the arcade games on there and you can even go on there and play chess and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure.
That's cool. But again, like I'm not sure what I would do to Home to make it appealing, because I just don't think it's appealing no matter what you really do to it, because I think it's just too much. You know? For me, it's just too much.
For me, I would love to see it streamlined and just in general be faster. Wouldn't it be awesome if, and this might actually be cool, think about this for a second.
Okay.
Wouldn't it be awesome if right when you turn your PS3 on, you have your cross media bar, everything's good to go, and Home is in the background. So you control the cross media bar with the D-pad, and so you can make all your selections like normal, but you also can just immediately start running around because you're just automatically logged into Home. You start running around, it's like kind of in the cross media bar is like on the top, you're running around, and you could turn all that options off if you're uninterested. But if it was that fast and that seamless, that would interest me.
Yeah, that would be awesome, and it would encourage more people to get into it, I think, just right off the bat.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's a nice idea.
Alrighty, and I'm sure it will never be implemented because that's probably a colossal undertaking.
Yeah, no doubt.
Here's a question from Joe, question. If PS3 does everything, why can't you rent a movie from the PSN while watching a DVD or Blu-ray? This is really pissing me off.
I never even thought about that.
Oh, Joe, you are totally right. The PS3 cannot do everything despite the ad campaign. The only option that you have is to sue them for false advertising. Please do not do that. Podcast Beyond does not endorse legal action against Sony. Unless, I guess, something were to happen that would require legal action.
Yeah, I think the Linux thing was appropriate.
But in terms of this, I mean, there's a ton of actually a bunch of reasons that I think it's weird that they don't have a sort of background downloading in place. For example, the renting a movie thing, totally, I hate that. Because oftentimes I'll be like, hey, I want to download this game. I'll just download it and I'll watch an episode of this TV show while I'm waiting. Nope, can't do it.
Can't do that, yeah. That's no good.
Also, same thing with playing a PS2 game. I think it cuts off your downloads during PS2 play.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, there must be some sort of resource allocation reason why they do that. But yeah, that is annoying. Maybe it'll be fixed in an upcoming one of the many updates that we'll be downloading in the next few months.
I still want to scowl at it, and I'm going to scowl.
Okay, fair enough.
But thank you, Joe, for writing in. Let's move right along to here's a good one. Hey, Beyond. Big fan here. Thanks for doing a show this week. I was just wondering what's one of your favorite IGN memories, like stuff we haven't heard between you and the other editors and such. Also, I heard there's a Chicagoland meet and greet on Saturday. You should mention that. Beyond from Greg Miller, executive editor of IGN PlayStation Team. This is actually
really. This
is really from Greg.
Cool.
So yes, thank you, Greg, for writing in.
We miss you, buddy.
I'm surprised I didn't get more of a laugh out of you.
No, I was just I guess I was kind of thinking about the question whilst we were.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Whilst. I like whilst.
Yeah.
Yes, Greg brings up a good point. There is a meet and greet in Chicago coming up at Portillo's on
Friday,
man.
right?
Is it this Friday?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Doesn't it not say?
He doesn't say, unfortunately, and I totally forgot to print out the details. He's gonna kill me.
We'll put it in the story.
Yeah, I'll put it in the story. The problem is that he always says the address every time, and I almost have it like it's
the corner of Grand and North or something. I don't know. So, don't go there. I don't know what that. I don't know. I don't even know if that place exists.
You just probably send them to like this dangerous ghetto. Yeah. I'm here for the Portillo's meet and greet. You're gonna get shot. Anyway, yes. So definitely check out the meet and greet because you could meet the one and only Greg Miller for some delicious hot dogs. Mm-hmm. Every time he talks about it, I get hungry.
Yeah, man. Sounds nice.
Colin, what's some of your favorite IGN memories?
I don't know. We've talked about so much. I think what came to me is something that I guess I've never really talked about on the podcast is I guess my favorite memory might be my original exposure to IGN in person, which happened in 2003. I flew out here. I guess I was 18, mm-hmm. And I stayed on Fran Mirabella's couch. Now this was when Fran lived with Ivan Sulich, who used to work here. He works. He's a writer at a game studio now. I'm not sure exactly which one.
Right.
And Sin, who's still with us, and he's one of our artists. And I was just here for a little while, like a week or something like that. And I was just working in-house and kind of checking things out and kind of feeling things out or whatever. And just meeting everyone for the first time was really wild. Now this was 2 offices ago, so we moved offices into San Francisco 6 months ago or so, and we were in Brisbane.
It's been longer than that now.
Has it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I guess it has been. Yeah, March, April, we moved in here.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right. Jeez, time flies. And before that, we were in Brisbane in a big office for I don't know when I was a real intern. We were there even. Years. So, but the year before that, I was a real intern in 2004. Before that, like during my mini internship and like my first exposure as a war, we were in a small office on Bayshore Boulevard in Brisbane, and it was just really cool to meet and kind of I met Chris Carl and Hillary and Spence, who's our old music editor, a bunch of people that aren't here anymore, like Dan Adams. Actually, when you think about it, a lot of people that aren't here anymore. So that was kind of cool, and that was like really my first IGN exposure, or whatever. It was just really flabbergasting to be around these people for the first time because, for instance, I always kind of, I'm like a Z-list. We're like Z-list internet celebrities. Like somehow people care about us, and that's really funny and cool, and I'm really always honored by that. And I always try to let people know that I'm really honored by that. But I also understand where they're coming from because I felt the same way about these people, some of whom we work with right now. And so it was really cool to be exposed to that for the first time or whatever.
Like how we're Z-list.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, like we're like nobody, but people but people still, some people really still care about us and our opinions and stuff. And I'm always really honored by that. It's because what we
represent, we represent this like giant network of video games and something that's really fun and connects a lot of people around the world. So
I agree. I never took it personal. I know that if I didn't have, it's not Colin Moriarty you care about. It's the fact that I work at IGN and those are my opinions that you care about or whatever.
There's probably a couple Colin Moriarty fans.
Yeah, I know. Maybe I'll take some with me if for some reason I would ever go do something else or whatever, although I have no intention of doing that.
Right.
But it's kind of funny to think about, like, kind of put into perspective of, like, I was that person. I was even that person when I was here as an intern, and I was that person when I was freelancing, and I was that person when I came here for the first time when we were hired the same day.
Yep.
I was that person when I walked into this office, and I was like, holy shit. There's
July 16th, right?
Yeah, July 16th, 2007. Yeah. That was our first day.
Oh, man.
And Geddes is too.
Yeah. That was, I'll just never forget that, walking into that room.
It was fun. It was fun.
So
we all became really good friends really quickly, and
yeah.
But that's my memory. I don't think I've ever really talked about that. Nothing really. I wrote when I was at the office, the old office. I wrote like a Castlevania GBA guide, and we just kind of hung out, and I got to know everyone and stuff, and that was basically it. So
cool, man.
Yeah.
What about you? Yeah, I will say for me, there are countless memories, literally countless. I would not be able to count them. Of fun times that I've had at this company, and it really has been. What's been important to me, and I don't think a lot of listeners really think about this, is that I have never lived in California until this job, and I have no family out here. I had no friends out here. So when I moved out for this job, which was literally months after graduating college, I moved away from every friend that I had and every family member that I had to a place that I knew no one. And everybody here became my friends and family. And to the point of where like I was considering like I'm having like Thanksgiving dinner with like my coworkers,
right?
But they're not even really my coworkers; they're just my friends and family. And so that's what's amazing to me, and that's what I really appreciate because I would be horribly bored and lonely out here if I didn't get along with everybody so well.
Yeah, I think that's the part of the blessing of working here.
And one of my funniest bonding experiences when I was one of my first industry events was in Vegas, and I went with none other than Hillary Goldstein and Damon Hatfield, and I didn't even know them very well. This was before like I was good friends with these particular guys, and that was like our big bonding moment. I remember being in a club drinking, dancing with Hill and Damon, with like all these random like journalists and stuff, and I was like, this is absolutely insane, and we ended up bonding over that. So
cool.
That's something that I think about sometimes.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of great stories. I think the one thing you and I don't really have perspective on because we both graduated college in 2007 and then moved here to work. Our situations are pretty much identical in that respect. Whatever is that we don't know really how jobs are somewhere else or whatever. And I think what we kind of have to keep in perspective is that we're pretty blessed not only to have a great job like this, but also the environment in which we work. Because I think that a lot of offices are very stringent and strict, and you kind of go about your business about 9 to 5. People don't really want to talk to each other. I mean, I know people that work at places where they have no interest in talking to the people they work with. You know what I mean? It's like there's just no interest with anyone talking to anyone. It's just not like that here, which is cool. And what's even cool is it reaches beyond editorial and video, where we're really friendly with a lot of people. Because IGN is. It's a big company. It's a big company.
It's big and it's weird.
And like editorial's big and video's big, but we're not. We're like 10% of the company or whatever. I mean, there's like lots of other people doing lots of other things, or whatever. And what's cool is that everyone's really cool and the culture is really, really nice, or whatever. So,
for sure, man.
Yeah.
Oh, that made me feel very nice. That was a good talk.
Yes.
Let's end on one other quick thing.
Okay.
Because we are. This is a long fireside chat.
Good. I like long fireside chats.
Dear Colin and Ryan, I really like fireside chats because it has a really relaxed atmosphere. On that note. What are your favorite games to play when you just want to relax? Mine are Flower, Peggle, and certain scenes in Heavy Rain, which is very interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting.
This is coming. Don't Stop Beyondin'. This is coming from longtime Beyond fan Enzo De Gregorio.
Yeah, our friend Enzo.
And what's amazing to me, and I was thinking about this, we have a picture of Enzo wearing a Beyond shirt.
Oh yeah, there he is.
Up on our wall.
There he is.
So I know what you look like, Enzo.
Oh,
How you doing,
Enzo.
man?
That's very nice.
So what games do you relax with, Colin?
I guess when I want to relax the most, I don't even play a video game. I play chess. But as far as
an old games.
Yeah, a very old game.
It's retro style.
Yeah, it's quite retro. It's like 1,000 years old. But for video games, I mean, the games that I find most relaxation with, I guess, are he mentioned Flower and stuff, PSN games that are easy to digest, whatever. I really like brick breaking games, so
yeah. Do you relax with Shatter? Because Shatter is kind of an intense game.
No, I was going to say, I mean, yeah, sometimes I just throw Shatter on if I want to play it or whatever. But I think a relaxing game is like Cuboid's really cool, which isn't a brick breaking game, or Hyperbaloid is a cool brick breaking game that's just relaxing things with relaxing. The music's not loud and stuff because obviously Shatter's loud.
Yeah.
So games like that or whatever. I can even really see myself, although it's very tense, I can see myself relaxing a little bit with Pac-Man. But I don't necessarily I'm always trying to be relaxed when I play games. I don't necessarily play games just to relax.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
I totally agree. I do not. I generally don't game to relax. Like when I game, it's usually with a purpose. And especially since the thing that I'm doing most is StarCraft, that is not a relaxing game. That is a very focused, very intense game. It requires incredible concentration. I have tried drinking, relaxing, and then playing a game of StarCraft, and it does not go well. Oh, I dare any gamer to take a really difficult game and drink a bunch, and first see how it goes.
Yeah, probably not very well.
You probably won't play as well as you do sober. That ends the fireside chat.
That was good. I like that. That was fun.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you, Colin, very much for joining me.
Thank
you, listeners, for tuning in. Hopefully you enjoyed Colin and I's little chat here on the day before Thanksgiving in a quiet, abandoned office deep in San Francisco. I don't know. Anyway, I want to end with this is very appropriate, and I'm really happy that Michael wrote in. But Michael Zethner wrote in, and he says, "Hey guys, Mike here. I'm the person who submitted Ether, which was Aether, but I'm pretty sure it's Ether, which was the song Ryan picked last time you guys did a Fireside Chat podcast. Since I heard you guys were doing another one, I thought I would try to submit another song. This song is called Frequency, and it was written and recorded by myself in my bedroom. Smiley face. I really hope you guys like it. You can find the video on youtube.com/ZethyGuitarist. That's ZETHY Guitarist, all one word. So you can find Mike's music there. Love the podcast, guys. Keep up the great work. Michael Zethner. This is absolutely the perfect song, once again, to end our Fireside Chats with.
Excellent.
Really enjoyed it. This is Frequency by Michael Zethner. Again, if you have any Beyond-related inquiries, please send them to beyond@ign.com. Let's listen to Frequency, and remember, you are not alone in this world.
No.
You are guided by the Legion of Beyond.